Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, to Haunted Vermont. The roles are reversed for this podcast, and instead of having Paul Dulski be the presenter and the host of the show, he is actually on the guest chair. So we're going to be interrogating. Wait, that's not the word. Uh, Interviewing, that's still not the word. We're going to be grilling him on everything haunted, ghosts, cryptids, you name it. My name is Ken Artuz, and Paul, take it away. Let's give us a little introduction about yourself.
Hi, my name is Paul Dulski. I started Haunted Vermont on August 26, 2012. So this year in August will mark the 13th anniversary of when I started this, you could say, community. A little backstory of why Haunted Vermont was started back in 2012. It was because back when Facebook was kind of still early per se. I think I've been on Facebook for like 4 years at that time, and that was when all these popular pages were popping up for like paranormal stuff, like Paranormal United States group. This state had its own page, this and that, and I was just like, huh. I wonder if Vermont has one, and they didn't. So I was just like, well, I like legends, spooks, cryptid, like all the stories in general. I'll start the page. So that's kind of how Haunted Vermont kind of came to be.
Wow, and where are those pages now? I'm like, people hardly frequent Facebook anymore. They still around?
Some of these pages that I used to follow, like the Paranormal United States or whatever it's called, that's actually not around anymore. I've noticed a lot of like haunted state pages seem to have disappeared. There used to be a really cool one that I used to follow too. It was called like haunted history or something, and don't even know if that still exists or not. Which I should look that up. But I used to love that type of stuff because you got to learn like different things, not just in the United States but all over the world.
Cool. And Haunted Vermont, where do you distribute your content? Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter.
I don't even use Twitter that much anymore. But I've been debating about Blue Sky, but yeah, otherwise, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, it's kind of like the basic social media, I guess.
Cool, cool. All right, so let's go down to the nitty gritty.
All right, let's do
Ghosts.
this.
What's your opinion on them? There's so many TV shows that we could watch and a lot of content on YouTube. Personally, I watch a couple of channels just for entertainment purposes, but there's always one or two videos that really sticks out that is unexplained. I would say that 5% of the videos out of 100% is unexplainable. So what's your take on that? Skeptical or not?
Back in the day when I first started, you could say I was more of a non-believer, I guess, skeptical about it. The situation of there's possibly more to life than what we actually know about. But you could say that my uh, oh man, what's the word I'm trying to say? Like my input of the subject kind of changed when my own experiences did start. And yes, and to go off the idea of what you were just saying, Ken, with the TV shows for entertainment and stuff. Yeah, I used to be one of those people that would watch like Ghost Hunters, and this is before like Ghost Adventures and whatever else came afterward. But with Ghost Hunters though, I liked it, even though it was fascinating half the time when they did capture something that they couldn't explain. But most of the episode it came down to the fact that, well, it's an old house. There's there's old boards that squeak and thud, and then there's rumble in pipes that just need to be replaced. So basically, it just kind of became like, well, it could just be something because it's an old house, basically making the sound. Yeah.
Right. And the TV show you just mentioned, I used to watch that all the time until I discovered that the producers were fabricating evidence. And that brings me over to everyone has a camera now, and everyone on TikTok wants to have engagement of the of viewers. So they'll set up some string or something like that to make it seem like their place is haunted. I just earlier today saw a woman. She was communicating with something, and they were giving her information, even predicting the future, stuff like that. I'm like, come on, this can't be. You could tell it's obvious, but like I said, there's always that 1% or 5% that we cannot explain.
Yeah, I mean, I will agree with that. Just because there is some stuff that I have personally watched and sort of experienced myself, where I kind of just go, I can't explain that. Like, even after trying to debunk some of it, it it just still kind of goes, well, that there's got to be something like a rational explanation, but then it's like, what is it though? So when you can't find that A, B, C, D, what to say, then what? Do you just throw it into the pile of unexplained and come back later too, or do you just kind of just say, yeah, this is unexplained, and then that's it?
Exactly, exactly. And yeah, there's a lot of people creating content like that online just to engage farm, but legends and what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, we stick to the word legends. The woman walking down
Folklore.
the street, the hitchhiker, uh, the headless horseman, all of these folklores and legends. Each state, each city, each county has their own little story, and this is way before social media. People would share this information, and now we have practically every highway has its own ghost story. What is your take on that? Anything true behind them, or you think that's just made up gobbledygook?
Both. I think there is some truth behind some of the locations. Otherwise, I think just because of legends and specific areas are getting attention, it's almost like the other places want that attention too. So they'll be like, oh well, we had this happen. It's kind of like a legend of folklore. I could tell you one way, Ken, and then you could like add something to it that I didn't say, and then the next thing you know, there's like 20 ways to tell one story of a legend.
Yeah, it's sort of like that game with the tin cans, or the game where the person originally starts with a sentence and they all tell the person in the ear, and it goes down the line, and the original sentence gets totally distorted.
That's right. That's right. But yeah, no. Otherwise, I do believe that there is some truth behind some of the areas. It's just a matter of if the public will allow that to be seen. To like, and what I mean by that is like, let's just take a look at like the UFO subject, and I'm not talking like right now. Let's just say like back in the day when it came to like UFOs. The government did their best to even cover up anything that involved UFO. Oh, you didn't see any of this. You can't speak of this again, otherwise there's going to be consequences. It's not just for you, but your family. So of course they would have to not talk about it, and then they would say something about it when they would be on their deathbed. But other than that, um, I mean, if the government can be in control of not just the people but the media of what we're reading, seeing, viewing, whatever, then I mean, what else is there that has been written about, but then the government came in, kind of, wiped it away, kind of thing.
Right. Now, I hear you had your own personal experiences. Did that change your perception from skeptic to believer?
Yes. Yes, because some of the stuff that I will be talking about, it's just we just couldn't explain, and it kind of just made it more on the side of the believer than the skeptic, because if it was happening throughout my childhood friend's house that I'll be talking about a little bit. Otherwise, there is a an episode that I did with my buddy. It's called "The Paranormal Experiences," the Thomas Dairy Farmhouse. That has a little bit more in depth about some of the stuff when myself and my buddy who came on to talk about it. Yeah.
So there's a lot of terminology in the ghost hunting field. We have residual hauntings, we have intelligent hauntings. What's your take on this? And also, you have to include some type of spiritual perspective from it. Reincarnation. Do we not reincarnate? Does our energy linger? And for example, the case of Portuguese, that's a residual energy that's already there causing this havoc. So what's your take on all this?
Um, to me, what I would always tell somebody when it comes to like residual hauntings is, kind of like my bucket list. Go to like Gettysburg. Go to like a battlefield. That's pretty much residual energy that's gonna just keep repeating itself over and over again because of all the blood that was absorbed in the ground per se. You could say all that energy and everything else. As far as intelligent, well, I mean, that's always interesting to see, I would say, Ken, just because, if you are interacting with a spirit that's supposed to be, uh, have died for so long, because let's just say, for the sake of the question here, that let's just say they've been dead for like over 50 years, and they're interacting with us in today's time frame. That's interesting that there's there's two different type of I guess you could say realms or planes, depending on how you would want to phrase it. But I mean, it does fascinate me because what I'd like to sort of know is like, so how does that sort of work when it comes to residual? Like, I mentioned the like with Gettysburg, the blood, the energy that went into this area, but like what is basically playing it on repeat at certain times? I guess, like, is it the universe itself? I feel like that's an unanswered question for me because I'd like to know the answer of like how does residual haunting really work? Like, what is like why is there like footsteps maybe once a year that I hear, right, walking up and down the stairs, but I don't hear it any other time. So it's almost like, somebody took a record, plopped it on a player, and just, hit play basically at that time. And then they then they play it, let it play out until the very end. But then a year later, that same time, same everything, it's like it repeats itself. But with intelligent, I guess, to go back to that, it's like, well, does that mean yes, they stayed here because, is it because of unfinished business, or is it because they love wherever they are? I'll just say like Wilson Castle. Wilson Castle is probably one of the most haunted places around my area now, and because of just so many spirits there that reside in that castle that do interact with people, but it makes me wonder how much of that is intelligent and how much of it is residual, which I would personally say, for the two times that I have had a chance to investigate Wilson Castle, it definitely seems to be more intelligent than residual, I guess. I don't know if that really answers that, but that's the best I can probably put it in a little bow tie.
Cool. And what about from the spiritual aspect? Uh, do you think that we stay here? We go to the light? There's a lot of factors involved when it comes to ghost hunting.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it all come down to what your belief is, right? I mean, does everybody see the light, or does only those that really believe see the light? Like it's fascinating take. I mean, we all hear about what's that phrase? I saw my life flash before my eyes when we almost have like a near death experience. D E D NDE is what I'm trying to say. Near death experience. So is that like the same thing? Do we have a choice? I mean, I've also heard like not just people just see the light, but people are in this beautiful, um, like uh, I don't even know what to call it, like a beautiful place. I'll just say. And one fascination that I always hear sometimes is that there's somebody standing underneath a tree in a hat. They cannot see the person's face, but they basically tell them that it's not your time yet. You need to go back and finish and continue whatever they mean. I guess you got to figure it out once you wake wake up or whatever, and then you can, I guess, be the messenger. You can, kind of help other people. Say like there's more to it. How can you help? Um, I think we also have a choice. Like, we if there is, we can go to the light if we don't want to stay. If we feel like we've done our purpose. Otherwise, I feel like we can stay here and just watch over our family and stuff like that. Maybe guide them a little bit before we truly move on.
Hmm. So we discussed this a little bit on the spiritual side. What about the science? We have a lot of gadgets and gizmos that detect these so-called entities. We could record electro EVPs, electronic voice phenomena. Uh, how much of that do you think is true science or made up science here?
Ooh. Well, I mean, that I think that's where it becomes hard, right? Especially with voice recorders. That's why I kind of like to um, have a video camera rolling when I'm doing like a EVP recording, because at least in the video, you can see who is talking, or at least know the environment that's going on in the video, like of who's around. You can kind of get to know their voice sound. So that way, like if something does happen to come up that's not there, then hey, that shouldn't have been there, or hey, that was captured, but they didn't react to it. Why not? Um, but I would also say it's hard with voice recording with nowadays with AI, especially now with like the fact that what is it? You can tell AI to basically create a sample of the person's voice just by having like what is it, like a 30-second clip of their voice. And I mean, AI can't really express emotions per se of how us humans would say specific words or have it in a sentence of like if we're angry, sad, happy, joyful, whatever. It kind of feels plain, I guess. So I guess that's where it would become the tricky part of trying to figure out, well, did they not add it afterwards, and to say that that was there, kind of like what you were saying earlier, Ken, with the whole like what is it, like the whole TV entertainment thing.
We delved in a lot of aspects of ghost hunting. We went to the spiritual. We went through some things being you consider skepticism on, beliefs on, but overall, ghost hunting in general is. let's put it this way: there's a lot of strange things happening, uh, even in, let's say, in the countrysides. There's a lot of stories coming out of the countrysides of these uh, Latin America countries, and it's just weird. These countries are so far apart, but they each share something in common. It's like there's too big of a coincidence. And plus, when we find ourselves in a situation that we know there's something, a bad juju, a bad energy around us, we don't need an instrument to tell us something's wrong. We just have that gut feeling, our hair stand up on end, and all these things. So that's our internal mechanisms letting us know, hey, there's there's not a bear that's watching you. It's something else that's watching you.
Right, right. Which I can vouch with a little story actually, just from you saying that. So there's like an abandoned church in Florence, Vermont. I want to say everybody knows what one I'm talking about. It's right there, right by Omnia. But anyway, there was a particular night when we went to the specific church, and like you just said, Ken, like we don't need instruments. Sometimes our body will just tell us. But we went there one night, and I started to feel sick. I just felt like I was about to throw up. I couldn't like walk or whatever. At one point, my friend was getting freaked out because afterward, we all kind of got a chance to calm down and I started to feel normal again, he was telling me that he was starting to freak out because it sounded like there was chains, like almost like scraping against the wall, like coming towards you. But yeah, I'll never really forget that feeling where I just felt like I just got out of the car and literally wouldn't. I don't know. I'll just say 2 feet from just walking toward the place. I just felt like I just wanted to throw up. And then after we all left and drove away from the place and felt normal again, that just said, kind of like going to what you say, who need devices when you just need your own body.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of elements involved with these hauntings that could be explained with science. Of course, the supernatural comes into play occasionally, but you have to figure the earth has electromagnetics, and you have certain type of minerals, and combined, that would cause us to have experiences of nauseousness and dizziness. So there's a whole different factor. It's just that's the wonderful thing about the the unexplained and ghost hunting. There's so many areas that still needs investigating, that every time you do something, you discover something new.
Right. I feel like there's always that never ending question of what more can we learn, basically, because when we do kind of, to go off of what you said, uh when we try to answer one question, once we may have gotten that answer for that question, how many more questions did that just unlock, though?
Right. And before we go to the next segment, which we gotta discuss your experiences, we gotta do a quick burst. Let's see, how should we do this? Uh, let's try it. You believe in it or not? That's a pretty simple answer. Yes, I do believe in it. No, I don't. Okay, quick burst. Okay,
Okay.
one, aliens.
Aliens. Yeah, I would say believe it because I had a possible UFO experience. But yeah, okay.
Poltergeist.
Um, I would say yes, but Poltergeist is so Poltergeist to me. Yes, I believe it, but I also feel like when it becomes a Poltergeist situation, is it is it something supernatural or is it just a person?
Gotcha. Yeah, 50-50. It's true. Cryptids.
Um, so this is where So this is where I would say I'm more skeptical more than the supernatural for sure. Yes, just because I'm more of a seeing it is believing, and since I'd never really seen a like a Bigfoot or a Dogman or Champ or anything that's considered a cryptid, yeah, I'm still skeptical about it myself, but that doesn't mean I don't believe other people have seen something. But to me, I would have to have my own experience, which is odd, yes.
Yeah, good, good. Let's see. I would. How about vampires?
I mean, as much as I would love to say yes, I believe it, but I think we can all agree that back in the day with tuberculosis and stuff, and the whole embalming, embalming, that I think we kind of figured out the whole vampire myth. But then again, if we're talking like Veiled the Impaler, I mean, I think we can all agree he was the original Dracula.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, sick guy. We can't have vampires without werewolves. What do you think about werewolves?
Well, I would have to say, yeah, why not? I mean, there's old stories about people and werewolves like back in like the 1600s, where what was a couple ones? Oh man, I'm brain farting names right now, but there was one in like October of 1589. And then there's another one. Oh God, Cradle of Filth did a whole album on this guy. So yeah, I mean, there is a possibility that I guess there is werewolves out there because what's funny, Ken. I don't know about you, but after like doing this and thinking about this for a long time, when it comes to like Hollywood movies and stuff, you got to think like there's got to be some realism here, right? When it comes to the costume designs of like these werewolves and vampires, right? So it's like, well, what if like these old accounts is basically the old way of saying, well, it had to exist and this is what they looked like, so here's our costume kind of thing.
Right, it's built on something. Exactly. That's how I brought up the Latin America, because you would have miles away on account of something, and in this other country, and the same exact thing, perhaps different description, but it's the same type of haunting. So it has to be. Has to, and I bring up the word vampires because every single culture across the globe has their own interpretation of what a vampire looks like.
That's true. And don't quote me, but I think it's New England. I think New England, like I said, don't quote me, but there's a cemetery overseas. I know this is overseas, so I'll just leave it as that. But anyway, in one particular cemetery of theirs, they actually have like a um some sort of gate or rail or some sort of cage or something. I don't even know the right word into this, but basically they put something over where the body would be, so that way if they came back to life, they would be trapped in this like the steel cage that's surrounding them, so they can't fully escape. Kind of like like with a zombie popping out of the ground, they were supposed to be like just to keep them in cage kind of thing. It's very fascinating to actually look at it. And to go back to vampire for a minute, Ken, I just want to say for those that may not know, Vermont is actually known for four vampire tales or legends, I should say, here in Vermont.
Uh, Interesting, interesting. And I think I covered all of them except for one, witches.
Witches are everywhere, dude. You can't burn us all, and I'm just gonna leave it at that.
There you go. I think I covered it all. Aliens, ghosts, guys, cryptids. Am I leaving anything out? No, that's pretty much it. Okay, so let's go to your personal experiences.
Right.
The first one, we got to start off with the good one first, the juicy one,
The
which is the
juicy
one that really
one.
freaked you out the most.
Which one is that one now, Ken? Which one are you talking about? Which one?
Well, I don't know. You tell me.
Well, you're the one that's saying the one that I bring up the most. So which one are you talking about? I guess that I bring up the most.
but uh, uh, from my fact sheet, you had two experiences, right?
I've had more than two, but yeah,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Okay.
Here, I'll start off with my very first weird experience. I don't know if it's paranormal, but maybe you can help me out with this, Ken. This one has been baffling me. I rarely share this story just because of, well, it's just weird, and I don't really know how to describe it. But anyway, so back when I was little and I lived with my family, like in my old original house, and I'm saying this as like before my family got divorced, basically. Anyway, um, when you're a little kid, Ken, and you can come into this too to kind of see if I'm correct or wrong here or whatever, add to it. But when you're a kid, you know your bedroom, you pretty much know your own house, but stay that. You know your own way out everywhere, everything. So uh, there was one particular night though where I don't know, I was freaked out by something. I cannot figure that's the part that I can't remember. But anyway, where my bedroom door should be, uh, I could not find the doorknob. So I am like more panicking. Like I feel like I'm banging on the door, like shouting for my mother or my father or sister, basically anybody that can hear me at this point. But I'm trying to find the doorknob in the dark. And this night had to just been the perfect night for a pitch black night. Basically, I can't see anything. There's no stars, no moonlight, nothing. And I don't know, maybe 10 minutes went by right before my mom, you know, opened up my door. And what was even more weird about that is the door was like a couple inches away from where I was, even though I was uh, looking for that doorknob. But that goes back to saying, like, I know my room. Kind of like, I bet you still remember what your old bedroom looked like, Ken. You should remember where your doorknob was, if you shut your door, everything. I could not find my doorknob. And that freaked me out for the longest time. But would I say that's paranormal? I don't know. But it's just weird. So I'll put that in the weird category. But but yeah, I was just wondering if anybody else had a weird experience like that, where you like I was saying, your room, where that door handle should have been, but you just can't find it. And then it just feels like eternity or 10 minutes went by, and then all of a sudden somebody else just like broke it just by, like for me, it got broken because my mother, I think it was, opened up my door. Um, Other than that, I swear back in that house, I would hear people up in the attic, almost like they were laughing, almost like playing a card game, which was odd. I never actually asked my parents about that because I just was little and I just thought, I don't know, I guess people, adults, they were just playing cards in the, excuse me, in the attic. Why the attic? I don't know.
Yeah, I think when we're young, we have a more intuitive perception on things that when we get older, we lose it. I think that that's plausible. And being I've experienced a pitch black night, yeah, that is freaky in itself. And when you trying to get out of a certain area, yeah, the whole factor just rises up, and you panic in an instant.
Yeah. and that's pretty much what happened to me. Like, it took me a while to even calm down. Because I'm literally looking for and feel like I'm feeling the wall. I should bring that up too. Like, I'm feeling my environment, trying to find the doorknob, and I could not find it, even though I felt like I'm like, you know, uh, right there, and I just could not, for the life of me, find that doorknob that night.
That's weird. Yeah, that definitely goes into the I experienced something weird in my life pile.
Fair enough. Uh, yeah. So that you could say kind of started the whole like, well, what kind of like what's going on here? Like, is it like I wouldn't say it would be considered like a time loss factor because I didn't technically lose time. It was more like I don't know, just I don't. Is there even a word for this? Like I don't even know. It's almost just like my door just vanished, I guess, and then it like reappeared per se. Even though that's completely probably not what happened, but to my little kid brain back in the day, it's just like, well, where's the doorknob? Because I should have known right where my doorknob was.
Yeah, that's freaky. Could write a little horror story about that. The missing doorknob.
The missing doorknob. Don't shut the door.
Oh, that's a good title. Yeah, yeah. You get sucked into an interdimension portal or something like that. That's cool.
It
Okay,
could have
so
been. Maybe that's what it was. The portal.
there you go. Uh, Next experience, something more recent. Anything that you experienced during ghost hunting?
Recent. I would say my first visit in Wilson Castle. That was a fun night. There was way too much going on that night. I'll never forget hearing like footsteps out in the hallway. Uh, we all heard like a lady's voice say hello, and like almost as if they were, I don't know, standing in front of the door to come into the bedroom where we were all kind of crammed into. um yeah, man. I mean, there was like tripwire stuff going off, EMF tripwire. I forget what they call it right now, but then they had like a vortex box, I think, or a vortex. Uh, yeah, I'll just call it a vortex box. I can't think of the right name, but it basically sets off different colors. So, like, we were asking if we could have whoever was turning on the light, or that, like, let's just say red light for the question here. We would ask it if it can change it to blue, and it would. And then they would step away from it, and it would shut off. There was a lot of cool stuff going on in Wilson Castle. Um, Another interesting one that I can say, it's not real recent unless you want to call it from like last October. But last October, when I made the video for Vampires in Dummerston, when me and a friend went to check out the Dummerston family vampire story, basically to find the graves of the family, basically. Uh, After getting back and doing that little video and putting it up later that night around 3 o'clock in the morning, the next morning, which would have been a Sunday, my bedroom light turned on. And it's not a switch. My bedroom light, you have a pull string. So my pull string light um, somehow, I guess, got pulled, even though I didn't hear it get pulled. So that's the interesting part, I guess you could say.
That is interesting. That's freaky too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I definitely kind of shot out of my bed, like what the hell? And then I looked at the time, and then I thought about it, and I was just like, uh, And I kind of just shut it off the light, didn't even acknowledge it or anything. So, because they say if you ignore it, you don't give it attention, it just goes away, which it did, I would say.
So it's like a puppy dog.
Yeah, you could say like a prankster, trickster, something like that to that effect.
Gotcha, gotcha. And in evidence, in your experience, have you captured anything unexplainable?
I guess you have to be more specific than that, but I will say I have documented EVPs of different locations of between some uh, cemetery, Worthing Castle, some friend's house. We went to the Hubbardton battlefield and captured some very interesting EVPs. There's actually one EVP from the Hubbardton battlefield I won't forget. And it was the very last question I said for the night. And I was out in the middle of the battlefield, and it was just me. Everybody else was like way on top of the hill of the battlefield. And I asked the question, "Were you scared?" And I would say maybe 10 seconds after I said that, there was a female voice that came in, and not only did she come in, but what I find fascinating about this EVP was like there was crickets. Well, the crickets uh, almost got like absorbed with the sound just so she could be heard. It was almost like she quieted the crickets, said the response, and that was it. Which the response of the female present that answered the question said yes, that she was scared.
Hmm,
So yeah.
that's interesting. Which makes you wonder what is a lady doing on the battlefield?
So I tried to do some research, and I'm wondering if this lady could have been a prisoner or some sort of nurse. But then again, I don't know with that time frame if there was women doing uh, medical attention kind of thing on a battlefield. I know there could have been like maybe some cooks or something, like if they were over at their base or something, but maybe that could be very well. It's maybe like a lady that came after the battle was done and to kind of like clean up the battlefield to bury the dead. I don't know, Ken. It kind of makes me wonder myself.
That's weird. Any other highlights that you've had paranormal?
Well, I kind of discussed on another episode too about my Route 22A experience of the UFO, but I'll just make it kind of quick. But anyway, I may have had like a possible UFO sighting, and I only say possible because I am not confident that it was, but it's still weird nonetheless when I tell the story. So the story basically in short term, which again you can hear all about it in my episode that I did where I think I called it Paul's Route 22A UFO, I think, or something like that. And anyway, I was doing traffic control, and the short term thing is my partner couldn't see where I was talking about this black dot in the sky. So when we finally got a chance to get back together, um, I pointed at this black dot in the sky that had been there for hours, and I mean beyond the 2.5 hours of battery life that a drone would have had before it needed to go back to wherever it came from. But anyway, as soon as I pointed at the, I'm going to just call it the black dot in the sky, that's when it decided to move away. As soon as I pointed at it.
That's that's weird.
Yeah. So was it a UFO? I cannot 100% say yes, but when I point at it, and then that's when it basically you could say took off. I mean, what else could it have been?
Unexplained.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Other than that, as for a juicy one, let me see if I can have another juicy one. So, I guess I will end it with this one because this is always a favorite. So back at the Thomas Dairy Farm, um, my friend and I. This is my friend that we would watch Ghost Hunters. Like this is where I would be basically to watch Ghost Hunters because me and him were into that sort of stuff. And this is pretty much the spot where me and him kind of jokingly said in the episode that we made that we kind of wish we could go back to our younger selves to tell our younger selves to get like our parent to get a VCR camera or a recorder so we can just film it of all the crazy stuff that happened there because it was just mind blowing some of the stuff that had happened there when I was there. But one of my favorites that I will tell, the rest can be listened to on that episode, which is entitled Paranormal Experiences, the Thomas Dairy Farmhouse. You can hear a little bit more of what we did experience and stuff. But there was one night where it was his birthday weekend and I went there to celebrate with another friend of ours, and he had a futon bed. And my friend was one of those people where he either needed an open window at night to sleep or a fan running. So he had a window next to his bed. So that's where he would be. And because of our friend being somewhat smaller, uh, we put him in the middle just because I was kind of used to rolling over, but I wouldn't roll on him because like mentally I knew he was there, so I wouldn't move. I would just sleep on one side. Anyway, somehow during the night, I got switched to where my friend was by the window. My friend in the middle was where I was, and my friend who would have been at the window was actually on the floor, almost like underneath the futon bed. Now, that sounds very weird, and I know for people they can't see Ken's reaction, but they pretty much he doing the face that we all would make, like what? What?
Exactly. How the hell would that happen?
So exactly, and you know, in real life though, when it comes to a bed, if you try to get up, you're more than likely to wake the person next to you. I mean, plus we're guys, right? Like we're not so quiet getting out of bed. We're gonna trample you, step on you, you know. Just it just happened because it's not like we have night vision goggles on and we know where your feet are or where you are to really fully prepare ourselves to step over and pretty much not break our head in the process of not falling off the bed either.
Right.
But the point to this is how we all were moved so soundly, so like effortless, like, and it's just funny because I feel like we had that experience not once but twice because Justin, when we were talking, he remembered it a different way, and I remembered it this way or in that particular way. But so it makes me wonder if this had happened more than once. But then again, I used to hang out with Justin all the time at that place. So I mean, there is a good possibility that we probably got moved around in the bed like probably a few times.
That's crazy.
One of my other favorites, and I'll leave it off with this one too, Ken, is so it was just me and him. His sister was actually over at her friend's house, and because of his folks being on the farm, they worked, the long hours, and they weren't inside the house either. So anyway, we were in his room and we were watching a movie, and the movie happened to have been Anaconda. Now, his bedroom door is shut and locked, and right at the first scary part of the movie in Anaconda, that's when his bedroom door opened, like swung open, and it was locked. So of course, not only did that part in the movie kind of startle us or kind of freaked us out, but now we have this bedroom door that just flung open that should be locked. That kind of freaked us out even more, man. So, going back to the ghost hunters real quick. So we literally like tried to debunk why we had this door just open randomly. We were wondering if somebody pulled a prank on us, which we thought the sister, obviously, but then we remembered that the sister wasn't there at the time. So we're just like, well, could it have been one of his folks? No, because the other bedroom that's next to him has a you can kind of walk into this bedroom and go into what would have been his sister's bedroom, I guess. So kind of like connected. But that door on the other side of that room is locked for that reason, basically. So like Justin couldn't go and freak his sister out, kind of thing, and vice versa. So they already planned that decision. The next thing we started to think about was his stairs leading up to the second floor. Me and him both went down and up the stairs a few times to try to either be how loud we could be, how quiet we could be, and we kind of failed each time because those stairs, like going back to what we were saying before about the house or whatever being old and whatever, the older the house, the louder the sound it becomes, basically. So we basically decided that there's no way in hell that anybody could have snuck up on us. So how that locked door opened up, we have no idea. That's left unexplained.
Yeah, it is very interesting. From two things really highlighted. The door. It's unexplained. That's kind of freaky there. And B, what part of Anaconda was scary?
Well, we're talking like fourth graders, Ken. So the very beginning of Anaconda was probably the freaky part with the lesbian. Let's just all say that.
Gotcha. Wow. I'm telling you, I hear these stories all the time. Experienced a couple of things myself, and that's just the thing. We don't know. There's science. Is it science? Is it spiritual? Is it residual? Is it intelligent? Is it the water? Is it the minerals where the house is built on? The soil? Electromagnetics? We just don't know. Well, it makes for good storytelling.
And it could also be all of the above from what you just said, though, because you're right about all that. Like but we all got to remember everything is energy, so everything pretty much acts, and everything acts like a battery. So, yeah,
right, yeah.
But
it's just we don't have the answers, and we could do the best of that we can to measure things, EVPs, all these other things that if we could get our hands on, that's pretty cool. Some of these gadgets are expensive, but hey.
Now, I do want to add to this real quick, Ken, if I may. Real quick is, so going back to what we were talking about with poltergeist, when I even said the comment, well, I'm 50-50 on that because it could be the place or it could be the person. Now, fun little fact about this is once my friend moved out of this farmhouse, there was no experience afterward that took place in that house. That house actually ended up becoming a um, like a 3 bedroom apartment thing that could hold like 3 families basically. So they split it up. So it's not one great big family house anymore. So it got split up from what I understand. But that's when the activity stopped. So was it somebody part of Justin's family that had the the recipe of having these hauntings? I don't even know like a good way to put this, but or was somebody just haunted and creating kind of
Yeah.
like what the battery to set the hauntings?
Yeah, there's also that. Exactly. Some people are sensitive.
They are, yes. Um, there's a lot of speaking of being sensitive. A lot of people. Well, you kind of said it earlier. Goosebumps, your hair stands up. People sometimes have that tingly feeling, and they can also be have that feeling where like you're walking and then you like it almost feels like you just hit yourself with like cobwebs. Like that can actually be like a paranormal sense as well, even though when
Yeah.
there's no cobwebs.
There's nothing around. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's absolutely true. All right. So now let's bring us to the next segment. What are your plans for Haunted Vermont?
My plan for Haunted Vermont. Well, since we are rolling on to the 13th anniversary, and I have been doing this by myself for all these years, that I've been doing this for so long that I think it's finally time that I want to try to add some helpers that would like to help keep these stories alive. And what I'm trying to do is, if possible, I'd like to try to find somebody from each county to go around, take some pictures of some of the haunted locations with stories, and maybe present it with articles for the website and maybe just share experiences from themselves or other people. Try to make like a community out of this, because one of the slogans that I made when I first started Haunted Vermont was "Together we can learn," and I feel like after all these years with Vermont, even I feel like some of these places in Vermont have kind of gone and came. There's a lot of places that used to be around that are no longer here. And I just feel like it's hard to really find places now that actually even want to talk about the subject, because, it kind of looks bad for business. But then there's like Wilson Castle, where they're allowing you to go and stay overnight with a fee, obviously, but they're using that money that they're getting from paranormal groups to help restore the castle. I mean, if that's not one way of trying to say you're getting donations to try to rebuild like a historic landmark, especially a place like Wilson Castle, where it's the only castle in Vermont, I would want to keep that going as far as you possibly could. And yeah, I mean, basically the idea is just to branch out more. I would love to collab more with people. I'm actually in the talks with 2 people to possibly do a collaboration with. Um, so yeah, I really want to do more this year with Haunted Vermont.
That sounds like a great path to take. A lot of people are definitely would be interested in doing something like that, and especially in an area that is rich with tales to tell.
Exactly. Yeah, I would love to keep these going, because I mean, once they're gone, right? Who's gonna carry the torch for the next 100 years?
Exactly. And nothing beats, well, we have good platforms to keep these stories present these stories.
Right.
So
Speaking
good
of
to do that.
platform, I actually want to, since you just said that, I do want to make a comment. that for people that may not know, which Ken, I would actually love your help with that too, just to have like a different perspective, I guess, just besides just me. But so as Ken, back in 2019, me and me Tessa and I, my couple friends of mine, we made a short horror film on what a Vermont
Yes.
legend. Now we made three that basically Vermont related, which is The Passenger, Vermont Urban Legend, which is about the West Rutland Marble Street lady in the white hitchhiker, you could say. We made one on that, and then Terror Trail 2 is basically based on the Bennington Triangle here in Vermont, just from the missing people, all the above, basically. And anyway, so the point to this, Ken, that I want to say too, to tell you and the listener that once again, local Vermonters made another short horror film based on a Vermont legend, and this time it is called The Thaw. It is on the Alter YouTube channel, but I think the name kind of says it all. But The Thaw is based on Vermont's frozen people legend. So I
Yeah.
would say go look that up.
That sounds interesting. Frozen people.
Oh yeah, dude.
What the hell?
Basically, it was around this time of year during the winter where if families couldn't strive during the winter month, they were low on food, drink. The elderly would make this like recipe, and they would drink it almost like a ritual, you could almost say. But they would go to sleep um, until spring, and they would get thawed out, and they would pretty much be back to normal. But they would put you in like a box with straw and cover you up with cloth just to kind of protect you from the predators. They would also put a top over, like another board over the top to keep you protected from the environment and the predators. It's
What
weird,
the?
dude.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to say about this is, when it comes to platforms, not only is there podcasts, but like where you can listen to people talk about the legend, but now I feel like it is time to get legends out more, like with film and short horror film. I mean, you can almost take any type of ghost story or legend and you can turn it into a horror. And that's
It-
exactly what these other local people did. And I actually watched their 16-minute short film on the frozen people, their like the take for this, and it was phenomenal. I loved it. They did a great job.
Wow, that's interesting. That is definitely, like I said, a lot of tales to tell. And with that, any closing comments? Personal, horror Vermont, haunted Vermont, excuse me. Anything you want to add before we close it out?
I just want to thank everybody that has been following my journey for these 13 years. I also want to give a shout out to anybody that has sent me photos to take a look at it, shared their experiences either on or off the podcast. I want to give a shout out to Craig Shorley, who has designed all the Haunted Vermont uh, stuff for me, because it's just another way of keeping these legends alive by breathing it life in a different way. And for everybody else, let's have another 13 years, I hope.
Great. And thank you so much. Before we wait, most important thing, social media. You don't have any? Or Hudson Vermont, where can we find it?
Haunted Vermont's links can be found on hauntedvermont.org. Everything is there. Otherwise, You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and you can find us on Twitter, but I mean, I don't really use it that much, and I am thinking about a blue sky. But otherwise, we are on YouTube, where I pretty much make some content there, especially when I go visit places.
Cool. All right. Now we finalized everything. Thank you so much, Paul, for your time, for the stories, for your input. And here's to another 13 years plus.